William turns 40 today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
The future king has reportedly told friends that he actually has a vision to shake up the royal family once he takes the throne.
And that might involve shaking out Andrew. To mark his birthday, Prince William is on the front cover of The Big Issue after, of course, he spent time selling the magazine early this month. It's all part of his campaigning around homelessness, a cause that's clearly very close to his heart.
Will Prince William ever actually be able to modernise the monarchy? We're joined now by royal commentator Emily Andrews, who thinks he can, saying William is indeed the modern man. We're also joined by historian Tessa Dunlop, who actually thinks he is a preserver of tradition. So, who's right? Tessa, let's talk to you. I mean, being on the front cover of The Big Issue, you know, he's talked about homelessness and he's very self-reflective, saying, I'd be the last person in the world you'd think might have any understanding, but this is why I do it, because I want to help those who are the least heard from in society. It's very... reminds us of Princess Diana, doesn't it? But why do you think he's a preserver of tradition? Because surely having ideas like this is modern.
Well, actually, we've had philanthropic monarchy for well over 100 years. When the monarch stopped ruling us and rescinded its power, or had its powers taken away and became this symbolic figurehead, instead it was invested with the trappings of state and became popular. And one of the ways of binding the monarch, the future king, the Prince of Wales, to the hearts and minds of the people was by doing good works. And we've seen it. We saw it in the First World War. We saw it after the First World War when you got David eventually abdicates as Edward VIII. But he was terribly popular, talking about the miners' plight, sticking up for industrial workers. So it's recognising that zeitgeist, the big cause of the moment, and going for it. That's not a modern idea. That's something that the monarchy's been doing for over 100 years. And what's happened is the causes have changed. So you've seen Heads Together, or even the environment, although Philip and Charles have been banging on about the environment since the 70s. So I would say this is more of the same. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is traditional rather than radical.
Emily, how can he shake up the royal family, given that he's not going to be king for ages? I mean, Charles is going to take the throne when the Queen finally exits, and he's going to be there for a good while, we think. He's a hale and hearty man. It's going to be decades before William can do anything. So this is all a bit empty, isn't it?
Well, we've got a Queen who's reigned for a very long time, as you say. We're going to have Prince Charles, who probably will reign for quite a short time, but then William will reign for a long time. But what's so interesting is that I do disagree with Tessa, because William has already made a difference. He is already changing the way things are done by the monarchy, even though he's not even the Prince of Wales yet. On that tour to the Caribbean earlier this year, where there were some colonial images, they were very ill-advised getting into that Land Rover that the Queen drove. He actually reacted really quickly to those situations and made a landmark speech, in my opinion, at the end of that tour, effectively saying countries, that they'd visited, that in the Caribbean that wanted their independence, that didn't want to be part of the British monarchy, didn't want to have the Queen or Prince Charles as their monarch in the future, absolutely should be in charge of their own future. And if they wanted to, and the British monarchy would support whatever they wanted to do. And he went further than that. He said that the Commonwealth, this group of nations that come together as, massive sort of north-south trading bloc power and, a legacy of empire, but are very much everyone standing on their own independent democratic feet. He said that it should not be a given that a member of the royal family, he, should be head of the Commonwealth. The Queen has been head of the Commonwealth. She has arranged it, in effect, so that Charles should be head of the Commonwealth. It's not a hereditary position. But here's William saying, you know what, we should be doing things differently. We're in the 21st century. We should be doing things differently. Countries should be able to rule themselves, decide who they have as their heads of state. I am not going to be an imperial ruler. We have the Queen, who is the last real imperial ruler, and I think William has already set out his stall and said, I'm going to do things differently.
All right, that's all very clear. I'd like to ask you both the same question, and Tessa, we'll start with you. What's he going to do, or what do you think he wants to do about Prince Andrew?
I think he's made that very clear, that Prince Andrew, remains within the private royal family. But in terms of future public roles, there ain't going to be one for dear old Andy. He was born HRH. He was, in fact, Andrew, the first child born to a reigning monarch since Queen Victoria. And I think some of that, blue-blooded righteousness, Andrew's finding it hard to shift, and William will help him do that. Just quickly on Emily's point about William and, modernising and re-evaluating the role of the royals within Commonwealth. You used the word he reacted to. He is reacting. He's not modernising. He's simply working out how the monarchy can survive and stay relevant. And our monarchy has been particularly good at doing that. We were imperial rulers. In fact, the Queen isn't an imperial ruler. She's the head of this meant to be cosy family, Commonwealth family. That was very much cooked up by her in the 40s and 50s, and it will need reevaluated. But again, this is adjusting, flexing, looking at the direction of travel and bending with it.
All right, and Emily, very briefly, if you will, the Andrew question, what do you think he's going to do or should do?
Well, I would say to Tessa's last point, isn't that modernising? Isn't changing, reacting, reflecting? I would say that's modernising. But I actually agree with Tessa on Andrew. I think William's made it pretty clear in private that there is no place for Prince Andrew in the modern monarchy. He's in, as the palace says, lockstep with his father on this. And it really is Prince Charles and Prince William who have come together and said to the Queen, I'm sorry, but he might be your son and this might be a family matter, but this is also a massive, institutional and PR matter. And there is absolutely no way that Andrew can come back to public life. As we saw with the Garter ceremony last week and Ascot, Andrew was supposed to be at the Garter ceremony in Windsor. Yep. He was supposed to be going to Ascot. And when William and Charles found out about this, they said to the Queen, I'm really sorry, yep, that is not going to happen. He cannot be seen in public again.
Just showing, actually, just underlining how brutal the royal family can be when it needs to be. Listen, that's all we have time for. We've got a lot more to pack in the show, but that was very interesting. Thanks for your time.
Happy birthday, William.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Yes,
William.
happy birthday. Of course, happy birthday, sir.